We'll start the session on introduction to machine learning. So I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of London AI Technology Meetup. So we are planning to have Meetup every month to bring you interesting areas on AI startups, AI companies, bringing AI technologies in London and UK based. So we are planning to have this Meetup first week of every month. That's the plan that we are having. The session for today is introduction to machine learning. So we are going to look at machine learning technologies in terms of broader view of AI and what kind of tools that we can use to get started with AI technologies. So AI nowadays have a big momentum in terms of usages. Almost every application nowadays have some form of AI built in to those applications. So some of these tools are really easy to use. So as a beginner also, you can easily use these technologies in your applications, and you can easily leverage these technologies. So in here, we are going to look at some high level perspective on AI technologies and what kind of technologies you want to practice in order to be master in AI technologies. So you may come from different fields, different backgrounds, and different level of knowledge in skills in AI. So we look at to cover much as possible in this meetup session in 1 hour session. And you can ask questions during the session or during the end of the session based on the things that you are discussing. So we are going to start with the high level area of use cases and the technologies. And then we are deep down into some coding and tools that you need to master in order to create AI application. So this meetup group is purely targeted toward AI technologies. So we are bringing different speakers, different startups, and different kind of expertise into this meetup group. Every month we are planning to have this meetup group to discuss about AI technologies. If you have any questions, you can also ask within the session as well. Okay. You also request to mute your mic during the meetup, and if you have any questions, you can unmute and ask. That won't be an issue. Right. Okay. Thanks. So we look at the AI business opportunities. So there are a huge set of opportunities, as I mentioned, is really used in AI industry. For example, automation, machine learning, algorithms, software programming. If you look at nowadays, almost every tool that we use are actually used by some form of AI, right? Let's say what are the tools that we use? LinkedIn, Everyday, Netflix, YouTube, all are using AI. They are built into some form of AI technologies. For example, if you look at Netflix, there are recommendation engine in the Netflix that recommending us with good movies. That's based on our interest. Then YouTube, they will use a recommendation algorithm to recommend movies. Then if you look at Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram, so they will recommend relevant professionals for us. So that is just using recommendation algorithm. So likewise, now there are a lot of AI startups, AI companies that's coming up with a lot of unique kind of the market opportunities in AI sector. So these companies are disrupting a lot of new innovative ideas into the market by leveraging AI technologies. So you can see connection with AI with other technologies. Cloud computing put in a really good effort where you need some sort of cloud computing to connect with, where you need a lot of computing infrastructure such as AWS, Azure, other cloud providers, right? Then we need to connect with mobile devices. Sometimes VR, robotics, you can see augmented reality. So likewise, different technology have some form of connection. Even nowadays, if you create a software, we need to include AI component into the software development as well. So it's really becoming everyday thing, adding some form of AI into your application, right? So knowing about AI technology stack, what are the tools you need and what kind of steps you need to follow in order to master. This is really important in your different careers or different startup ventures, right? So you can see potential of use of AI. So one main thing is improving our workflow. So we can automate a lot of tasks, manual tasks using AI. Then we can analyze large data sets, very large data sets we can analyze. And then also we can improve customer experience. So now chatbots and things like that, we can have automated conversations with a customer, and we can reduce the time, the actual person interaction. Then secure monitoring and detection, right? We can automate IT infrastructure. Also, if there's a routine task, same set of tasks that doing every day, we can automate that as well. So you can see there's a huge potential for AI technologies. So AI is a quite a broad perspective. So within that, there are certain set of technologies that we need to follow, and we need to understand how to leverage it, right? So that is the main focus of this today's session. Okay, so main benefits of the AI. So why we are going to use this technology? So cost saving. So cost saving is one of the main benefits that AI can leverage for an organization. It could be SME to large enterprise. You can save your cost by leveraging AI technology. Handling basic repetitive tasks. So if there's the same repetitive task doing again and again, you can do that in an automated way using AI tools. Then you can able to handle large scale data sets and large scale kind of data structures. Then you can personalize. You can see the experience you are getting in YouTube, LinkedIn are highly personalized. You get your own personalized kind of experience. So that is possible with AI. Otherwise, everyone will get same set of view. But in YouTube, you'll get a personalized experience. Netflix, all these kind of sites, you get your own personalized experience, because their AI algorithms are really great, and they spend a lot of time improving the algorithm, and a lot of professionals are working on that in order to improve the quality of the algorithm to make you engage on those platforms. Because everyone will get, even though there are billions of users, you will get personalized experience within that platform. That is one of the main benefits that you can have in the AI technology stack. So let's look at a high-level overview of how to do a AI project or data science related project. So this is a kind of a high-level perspective, how you can follow through an AI project. Some of you are coming from maybe IT industry. Some of you are already familiar with some of AI. So in this, we will show you how to go through a high-level kind of AI project. What are the things you need to do in order to complete a project? So you can see the first thing you need is a business understanding. That means you want to identify what is the requirement that you are going to fulfill. So the requirement gathering, because there are certain things that you can do with AI, but still there are some things that you cannot do with AI. So first you need to identify those. So by looking at use cases, different scenarios, you can see whether this is possible with AI and current set of technologies, right? So there are certain sort of use cases and things that is possible with AI. So that is the first thing we need to identify. Let's look at a simple example like gathering weather information and getting a weather for tomorrow. So you can check your mobile apps and see what's tomorrow's weather in London looks like. So it's using machine learning to do that. So using machine learning, we can predict, and we can do that in an accurate manner, where we have past set of data to analyze, and you can get the result, right? So that is the one kind of a business understanding we can have to get that information and get back that output, right? Then once you have that requirement understanding, maybe a business analyst can do that. Then you need to gather your data, right? You need to collect your data. So data can come from different sources, maybe from IoT sensors, maybe from structured data, maybe if you are going to more advanced techniques, it will be unstructured data like audio, video, things like that. So let's first look at structured data. So it can be from different departments, different sensors, like different kind of a structured data sets. Even government have structured open data initiatives that they are providing these kind of data sets to you to start with. And there are a lot of sites out there that providing this structured official data to we to start with the process. So there's another role involved in this. We are calling as data engineers. So data engineers is the person that responsible to collect this data and setting up in a proper manner. So because most of these AI, the machine learning tasks, we cannot do without AI, without data, right? So that is the one thing you need to familiar. But there's a specific technique that we can do without data as well. I will little bit explain it later. But most of the machine learning, deep learning tasks, we need to have data in place. Without data, there's nothing much we can do. Then once we have the enough data, you can see we can go to the modeling phase. So the modeling phase is how you can select a proper algorithm and how you can make the prediction. So that is where the data scientists come into place. So data scientists going to look at this data set and going to predict, going to look at the certain algorithm, and then based on that, they are going to make a prediction. So there are then another sub roles like machine learning engineer, then the tool engineer. So there are a lot of roles within that scope, but on average we call as data scientists. But there are a lot of sub roles within that. Even researchers also can collaborate in order to make this more effective. So once data scientists successfully completed that particular task that make that prediction, let's say tomorrow's weather in London, then that's not enough, because you can see at the output level, we need to connect this with a website or mobile app, right? Because you get this information in your mobile app, you get this information in your website, right? So that's the last part. So you can see the last part in the deployment, where we need the web developers, mobile developers, traditional software developers, connect that with the maybe through API, and there are some frameworks like Flask where we can connect and we can get the final output. So you can see it's a collaboration of different skill set to create a complete AI project, right? So we need to have a business analyst looking at these use cases, data engineers gathering data, putting into a perspective structures, then modeling data using data scientists, different data scientist skills, right? They want to model and select proper algorithms, proper tools, and what kind of the technology tool set they are going to use. Then based on that, they can finally go for deployments where a traditional developer can connect that maybe a API to a mobile app, or they can build a website that shows this kind of result. Because data scientist job is to get that prediction, get the result, but finally to showcase that as a normal, the everyday application, we need to have as a mobile app or website. There are other forms, but mostly we are using those two forms. Then you can see customer acceptance and we can complete the project. Then if there's any revision, we'll go to version 2, where we add new data points, update the model, then update the website, like that. So what is machine learning? Computer learns from data in order to make a predictive analytics, right? So there are a lot of use cases every day, as I mentioned, in machine learning. So if you go to Amazon, you can see online shopping recommendation, a part of that process where we can recommend items. So the Amazon's recommendation engine is one of the best at the moment. And there are a lot of other e-commerce players trying to look at that. That is one area. Then we have like self-driving car, things like that. That is going into reinforcement learning. That is like how you can learn, create an environment, and how you can train that environment using reinforcement learning, right? We are planning to have a separate session maybe in the next meetup on reinforcement learning. We are planning that. Okay, so let's look at the AI as a timeline. You can see it's spanned to 1950s, but the issue is like at that time, even if you look at the machine learning, it's 1980s, but the issue at that time is the computing. We did not have enough computing to work on these algorithms, right? So, you know, like at that time we play Pac-Man and games like that. So it's only few kilobyte of RAM. So only university computers, supercomputers, mainnet computers have those kind of capacity to test out these algorithms and create that. But now we have these powerful computers in our hand. Even in cloud computing, we can create high performance computer within a minute. Everyone can create that. So that makes this the technology much more far reach, and we can easily use a lot of these algorithms nowadays compared to the past. So that's why new techniques also being created like deep learning, where we can do even more predictions, right? Let's say a weather example. If you want to predict tomorrow's weather, that will be a machine learning problem. But let's say if you want to predict the path of a tornado, that could be done using deep learning. Like deep learning have a lot of interesting use cases, like image recognition, video recognition, audio recognition, right? A lot of when you go to Microsoft or Gmail, when you try to type the reply to a mail, part of the mail will be automatically typed in. So that is using deep learning model. Using that, we can suggest what is the next set of words going to be, right? But you can see it's not 100% accurate, but we can use that most of the time. So that is using deep learning. So we'll planning to have a separate meetup on the deep learning as well. But this session will purely focus on the machine learning aspects of things. Okay, so let's look at some use cases where you can apply these. So you may come from different industries. The good thing in the machine learning AI space is it's multi-industry. You can apply for multiple industries. That's one of the best thing in this. So you can apply for HR, finance, medical, like almost all the industries you can apply. That's one of the best thing in the AI technology. So let's first discuss the human resource, how it can validate in the recruiting. Then how you can keep the employees, right? Things like that. So the attrition detection, for example, let's say you want to predict who's the next employee going to leave your organization. You can do that with the machine learning algorithm. But you need to have a large employee base, maybe 300, 500 staff. Then using their data set, the employee HR data set, we can predict who's the next employee have a chance to leave the organization. So this is using a technique called churn. Churn is actually coming from mobile industry telco side, where in the telco side, the people leaving a network will going to join another network. So the telco side, that is a huge problem for telco industry players. Because of that, we can use this churn mechanism to predict who's the next subscriber going to leave. So the similar technique we can apply to predict who's the next employee going to leave. So because of that, what's the benefit? So the HR have an idea, HR department have an idea. There's a possible chance this employee, this set of employees might have leave this organization. So based on their past HR data set, that is a huge advantage for them. There we can provide like maybe promotion. If they miss a promotion on that employee, they can provide a promotion, maybe additional packages, additional benefits to keep that, because HR is everything for organization, their team, because of that reason. The similar scenario we can apply for products. So let's say you have a product that you are having thousands of customer base. So you want to predict who's the next customer going to leave your product, your churn rate. So that is the same use case. You can see how you apply for 3 different sectors: telco, then the product, and the HR. So the same problem, same algorithm, but you can apply for multiple industries, multiple scenarios. And these are standard use cases. You can easily read from the web and look at these use cases by industry. But another thing is you can come up with your own problem and you can solve that also using AI. So that's why that's a huge beneficial thing within that. Then we can create chatbot because employees want to communicate with HR. Then if there's a large employee base, HR manager team is not enough to communicate day to day. So we can create a HR bot that communicate, and anything critical can be directly converted direct into the HR manager. But until that point, the chatbot can communicate and try to solve standard common problems. Then we can do a recommendation. Recommendation is like if a particular employee want to join another department or another job. So what kind of skill set we can match that employee? So that person may work in one field. Now, same organization, they want to recommend or map that into another field. So we can do that using recommendation algorithms. So you can see this is only the HR industry. How much potential is there? What kind of things that we can do to do the AI predictions, right? So let's look at some other industries. So the financial side. So the financial side we can use for financial prediction. For example, also we can use in the financial side is identifying frauds, credit card frauds, things like that we can identify. That is also another side of this algorithm, identifying risk analysis. So a lot of banks use this at the moment, the risk profile analysis, credit risk, things like that we can predict. So we call predictive analytics, where we can use this type of analytics to analyze especially in the financial institutes. Then in the medical side, we can do a lot of things. For example, identifying specific diseases, right? Identifying a specific set of, so at the moment, and the cancer detection, breast cancer detection, skin cancer detection, this is used and it's providing really good kind of early detection. That's actually saves a lot of lives, right? So there are a lot of areas of healthcare related projects are there in order to identify these early symptoms. COVID-related projects are there. So likewise, a lot of early symptoms identification and then providing a good value and we can save lives using the medical side where we can save real lives. That's one of the benefits in this field. The telecom side, as I mentioned, we can use for churn. So that means we can predict who's the next subscriber going to leave the organization. So that will be a huge plus for telecom providers because they want to keep their customers engaged in their the particular network. And the insurance side, we can use for identifying insurance frauds, and also we can identify leads like that. Retail, we can use for retail price predictions. E-commerce side, we can use for e-commerce the recommendations like that, like Amazon. We can use for e-commerce recommendations, things like that. Okay. Then we look at some of the machine learning algorithms. So these are kind of a high level view of these machine learning algorithms. So we look at what are these algorithms out there for you to you need to study. So one algorithm is called classification algorithm. So the classification algorithm is purely based on a result, maybe an output result, a binary result, yes or no, true or false, like that. So that is called a classification algorithm. So you can use a classification algorithm for some use cases that we mentioned. For example, for churn, we can use the classification algorithm to get that binary result, right? So it will be a really helpful to use that. Then within that, there are a lot of sub algorithms. So who created this algorithm? These are from university research as part of the PhD. They did the research paper and they have published these things. Then the open source community look at this research and apply to this framework. So for example, the Python is, everyone, Python is the main language for this one. And then Anaconda environment is the environment that we are using. So on top of that, we have these frameworks like scikit-learn, TensorFlow, like that. So within that, we can see these algorithms. Then we can directly use this algorithm in our particular development for our requirements. So the classification is a one type of algorithm to predict churn. Churn use case, we can use that. Then second type of algorithm is anomaly detection algorithm. So that means finding something weird in the system, right? So your email inbox, you will get spam filter. So the spam filter based on the anomaly detection algorithm. So anything weird in the email will go into spam. But we know 100% of the time that's not true. Sometimes our email or the original wanted like official email will also go into spam because the what we are doing here is we call experiment. The data science, we call this as experiment. So that could be success or fail. So that ratio is measured by the successful rate, right? Using a specific metrics, we are defining rate. So normally maximum we can go 99% accuracy that we can measure. But still there's a 1% chance that the good mails, official mails can go into spam. Still you can see if you look at Office 365, Gmail, still your original mails from official sources sometimes go into spam folder. So here the anomaly detection algorithm will make sure that if there's something weird in the network or the system, it will identify. Another industry that this use is the networking industry, computer network side, where in that we can identify threats. We can predict what kind of attacks or the threats can come from. So for example, cybersecurity side, computer networking, firewalls, these areas, we can apply machine learning. So you can see the machine learning become multi-industry because of that. So computer network is completely different area. Cybersecurity is different area, but we can apply machine learning into that domain, and we can use predictions on top of that. So this is one algorithm that fit to that area as well. Then one of the main popular algorithm, regression algorithm, how much, how many. So it can predict the exact number value easily using the regression algorithm. So it will predict how much, how many, like our weather example, it can predict directly the weather result. What is the tomorrow weather going to be? It will be predicting like that. So the linear regression is one of the main algorithm. Some of you may already use the linear regression, but there are other regression algorithms as well. There are like different random forest, like different algorithms are there. So based on that, we can use different regression algorithms to make it much more complex and get the result done. Okay, then another type of algorithm is clustering algorithm. So this is also an interesting algorithm where it will show the hidden data in your data set, right? So it will show hidden data hidden within your data set. Using clustering algorithm, we can see what's kind of a hidden data that is there. So by looking at the data set, we cannot find that. By using clustering, it will show us some kind of a hidden form and group into these clusters using the clustering algorithm. So one popular algorithm in that is called KMean clustering, where we can use for segmenting application history, different activity monitoring, things like that. So these are different areas that's put into different use cases, but each of these use cases could be a one project, right? So that is how these things, but when you want to practice these things, you need to learn overall these things to get an idea, and then you need to use the different development tools in order to practice this. Then the next type of algorithm is called recommendation algorithm. This is one of the main popular algorithm and used by all the major providers like Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Netflix. Their main business model rely on the recommendation. If you go to booking.com, their main business model on the recommendation. So what is recommendation? It's going to recommend set of items, right? So in Facebook, it will recommend friends. In LinkedIn, it will recommend professionals. In YouTube, it will recommend videos. In Netflix, it will recommend movies. Like this, right? In booking.com, it will recommend hotels. So likewise, if you go to all these major sites, Amazon, it will recommend products. So their main business model relies on just one algorithm. So you can see how powerful is this AI sector, just one algorithm, their entire business model, and most of our time we spend on these platforms because of how good is this recommendation algorithm, because they can uniquely say that our interest, we like to watch these videos, we like to go through this content, this algorithm can predict. Based on that, they win our engagement, and they are using, because of that, we are engaging more and more into this platform. So you can see every day, the most of our, like if you look at our normal working day, so that is used by this algorithm itself, right? So how powerful is that? Because of that reason, because this can recommend this content based on the user experience, based on the user's behavior, this can recommend this personalized content. So that is one of the beauty of this recommendation algorithm. Then there are different type of recommendation algorithms to recommend items, recommend products, recommend ratings, like that, based on the different use cases. Okay. Then we look at languages. So what kind of languages you need to learn in order to master machine learning, right? So if you look at the programming languages, these are the two main languages you need to learn. One language is called Python, other language is called R. So why I put R is the one that initiated all this at the early stage with statistical computing. Like that, it's initiated with the R language. So we can do machine learning also in R, but when it comes to more advanced things, R is not good. Why? Python overtakes at the moment into this space where we can do machine learning, deep learning to more advanced reinforcement learning, lot of different concepts into that. But remember, Python is not only for machine learning. Python is a general purpose language where we can use for web development, game development, desktop application development. So likewise, lot of different spectrum is there. So the machine learning components only comes Python with the data science related tools. But Python itself is we can use for a lot of other different technologies. But if you are in this field, AI, data science field, then Python is the main language to go. But if you are coming from software development sector, you know the languages are different. We have Java, we have .NET, we have React, Angular. If you go for web front end, back end technologies like that. So there are different set of languages out there, but Python comes in a different way. But Python now offers all of these things like desktop application development. You want to do game development, web development, all these things. There are Django framework purely for web development. Then there's a Flask framework in Python-based web development for machine learning. So likewise, Python offers a lot of this flexibility in order to master in that. And that doesn't mean that only Python is the other language, but you can even use C#, Java like standard languages. They also have their own ML toolkits. If you look at C# ML toolkit from Visual Studio and Microsoft, you can use some of these algorithms I mentioned in C# language, similar to Java also. Even if you look at database like SQL, now have its own ML language, scripts like R, where we can do these similar algorithms inside the SQL database. But always there's an industry main industry player, or that is standard. So that's why the Python is there. But the similar concepts now apply within a lot of different languages. So most of the other languages nowadays providing some form of ML capabilities with some SDKs, but Python is the main language. The R is the second language. So mastering Python is really important to get familiar with the AI technology stack. And there are other cloud technologies also, right? So there are a lot of tools and technologies out there to you to work on, especially for beginners. We can use a tool like Azure Machine Learning Studio, where I'm providing a drag and drop kind of a component to you to work with this environment. So the Azure Machine Learning provides the drag and drop environment to you to practice these things. So it's a really good visual environment you to practice as a beginner. But once you master, you can easily go for the language, directly the Python Anaconda environment to work on that. Okay. And this is a Microsoft AI platform. So each of these cloud providers, as I mentioned in the earlier chart, each of these cloud providers provide the high benefit with AI tools, because AI is one of the main technology stack in their the technologies. So all the cloud providers, Microsoft to AWS to all the providers providing their own AI stack, their own AI technology stack in a different forms. So here you can see they provide a custom AI, they provide services, they provide their own bot framework, then they provide infrastructure. If you want to use create a virtual machine with the NVIDIA hardware, it will provide, but it's quite expensive, but they will provide that within 1 minute. You can create the infrastructure and you can train your data set on the NVIDIA chip. Then also they provide tool set like VS Code, then the other deep learning framework toolkit like that. So there's some cognitive toolkit that Microsoft built themselves. That is also part of that, because all of these tech companies invest huge money to work on the AI technology. The main company is the Google. You may all know they are the #1 in the AI technology in terms of AI products. But Microsoft is doing a lot of things in terms of the AI toolset, providing less solutions. So you can see these are the solution stack on the Microsoft AI platform. Then AWS also provide a similar set of toolset. Only thing is the names wise, there are different names because of the copyright issues and that how they have developed their tools. You cannot have the same name and same kind of things. They are providing their kind of a tool set. For example, here you can see Amazon Machine Learning, like AI platform, Amazon Poly, Amazon EMR. So then they provide the deep learning frameworks, infrastructure like that. So similar set of things, but different naming and different way of incorporating your services. So the AWS also providing this kind of a mechanism for you to interact with the platform. Then IBM also, a cloud provider. They also provide their set of tool set in the market, where you can go to the IBM cloud and you can access these things in terms of natural language detection, language translations, document conversation, like that. So some of these are provided as APIs. That means if you access these as an API, actually there's nothing you need to do as a data scientist. It's just like input the API, process it, and send it. It's just consuming an API. It's more like a developer level task. But some of the tools providing an entire development environment where you can practice these things and you can use their development infrastructure to build on. So that is one of the good thing in this, right? Okay. And another tool as open source you can use is the Anaconda. I think some of you have maybe using that software. So the Anaconda, let me show the website, this one. So this tool set is purely free of charge. There's a paid version as well. So this one you can go to product and individual edition. And here I will share this URL in the chat as well. So here you can see you can download this version for Mac, Linux, Windows, and you can use this software for your machine learning project. So there are within this environment, there are softwares they are providing. So you will get this kind of interface once you download this software. Then you can get the tools. There are a couple of tools I will explain next. We have desktop tools and the browser-based tools to practice these projects, right? So let me share this URL also. You can also take a look at it and download it. In a later meetups, we'll do more practicals related sessions to discuss more in these tools. So I will share this link to everyone in the chat. Okay. So in this tool, you can see it will be like this. So once you install it, you can see like this. Where in this tool, you can see there are a couple of softwares. So we have a desktop software called Spider, where we can do all our projects in a desktop environment. And there's a cloud software called Jupyter Notebook. That is also a really popular software to work on your machine learning AI projects. So these two are one of the main softwares. Then other than that, we have software like PyCharm, VS Code, all these softwares also. Let me show Spider software. So here you can see in this Spider software like this. This is the interface. So where is the desktop environment? So where we can write our code and then we can get a relevant output on the our machine. But remember, when you are using these frameworks, it will be right. When you are using this framework, it will be using your own computing, right? It will be using your own computing in your machine, right? That's where the cloud computing comes into play, where you don't need to spend on your own machine resources, where you can directly use your cloud computing for your resources, right? If you have any questions until this moment, you can ask. Yeah, any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask. Okay, so let's look at a simple example of like creating a visualization using Python. For that, we need to use some frameworks to do this visualization. So let's do a coding example and see how this works, right? So I'm going to import a couple of frameworks to do this. So all these frameworks are built in to the machine learning environment. So we don't need to install it. If you want to install, we can do that as well. But by default, once you download that software that I provided in the link, everything is included as a one package. So that's the beauty of things because a lot of open source tools used to be really difficult. For example, it will take a lot of configurations and things like that. But this tool is not like that. Just download it. Within a couple of minutes, you will get this, right? So everything is configured. It will install Python. It will install the Anaconda environment. It will install all the software. It's just a matter of launching it. Simple as that. Okay. So here we'll use the NumPy package like this, right? So this is a package that we are using for number processing because you can see we need to have a separate set of packages for number processing, data processing before we are going into machine learning. So we have some visualization packages, right? Then we have machine learning packages, deep learning packages like TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, like that. So then we are going to import another package called matplotlib, right? Matplotlib .pyplot as PLT. So this package is the one we are using for visualization. If you already did some of the machine learning projects, you already familiar with this project, with these packages. If you are completely new, you are learning today, then make sure to go through these packages. For example, the NumPy package for number processing, matplotlib package for the visualization. So we can do a lot of visualization in terms of visualizing data. We can visualize complex data points using matplotlib. So later I will show example like another complex examples on even we can look at like DNA data, even 3D visualizations, things like that using matplotlib, where it's really useful for processing these data. Okay, so let's start with the sample generated data set. So we can use like this arrange, then okay, like this small calculation and 0.1. Then we use the y-axis p dot we are using the sign value, right? X like this. Then we can even define a title to this diagram. So here we are going to set up a chart. So we can have a title, right? Like this. So this is the title, can be a text, right? Then we can plot this chart. So we can use PLT dot plot like this, X and Y. Then PLT dot show, right? So show method will make sure that we can visualize this data to show, right? Like this, just few lines of code, right? You can see we can get the sine wave like this. If you use a different programming language, let's say C#, Java, you might need to write a couple of more lines of code and you need to import many packages. But here you can see this package make this process really simplified, right? You just import the package, set up the data, just create the title, plot in the X and Y, just show, right? With just few lines of code, you'll get the visualization like this. Simple as that, right? So that's a really powerful feature in this package. And also I would like to highlight the cloud development tool. So what you can do is you can search Google Colab in the internet, right? Search Google Colab in the internet, software called Google Colab, right? So once you search Google Colab like this, right? Search Google Colab, then you will get the Jupyter Notebook software like this in the cloud, right? So this is a really good software. You can do your entire machine learning project in the cloud. There's a paid version on this as well, but the free version, you can build your MVP, your prototype without that much of a issue. And you can install your packages and everything managed by Google. So you don't need to worry about the infrastructure. They will provide a decent set of computing. But if it's a really high performance computing, you need to purchase some additional resources. But the standard project with MVP level or prototype level, you can easily do using this. And there are other benefits in this where you can share with your team members. You can share with your team members, you can assign your team members, so you can work in a collaborative environment, right? You can get your team members and you can share your project, right? Then you can see, you can save into your Google Drive, you can save in the GitHub, and you can get the local copy of the project, right? Everything giving free of charge, especially cloud computing, you are getting free of charge. Then if you want to upload files like Excel files and things like that, you can see here, you can upload files, and those files will be used to your Google Drive store. That is, I think, around 10 GB. So you don't need to worry about the file sizes as well. So it will be really good and cost-effective way of working in the cloud. And let's compile the same code. that we did here, right? And see, so it will be the same process like we did earlier. It will be the same process, so we can compile it and we can get the result like this. Let me just Control C, Control V, right? So you can see it will automatically identify the packages, and any third-party packages even we can download and install it, and you will get the same output. Then I can share with others, I can collaborate, I can invite my team members to this project, and it saves in your Google account, right? And it's completely free of charge as well. So Microsoft also used to have this thing called Azure Notebooks, but they recently shut down that feature. Now you can get this within the Azure environment, which is chargeable. But this is cost-effective way that you can practice these things, and their session might finish in a short time. So the project, the session runtime will be finished off after some time in the free version. So if you want to create enterprise level project, you need to go for the paid version. But until that point, when you're building MVP prototype level, you can start working in this project, and then once you're ready to go to the enterprise level, you can start going for the professional version. So it's giving you a lot of flexibility as a developer, collaboration, flexibility, file upload feature to access the files, and you can download any bigger package, like let's say you want to add TensorFlow, PyTorch, all these things you can install, right? Just few commands, pip command, you can install TensorFlow and all these commands. This is run as a cells. So you can see this run as these cells where we can execute. And let's say you have a team of data scientists you are looking at, and then you need to maintain, right? Maintain the documentation, things like that. Where you can do is adding this kind of documentation. So where we can add the text, right? Right, like this, we can describe about the task that we have created. So it's useful for other developers also. It's a collaborative way to work in that. Jupyter Notebook also providing this Anaconda environment in a local machine, but anything we are running here actually running locally, but here will be everything will be running in the cloud environment, right? So that is one of the beauty of that. And as a beginner or as a developer, you can try this software and you can look at different packages and things like that in that. Any questions you have up to now, you can ask. We have like a few more minutes. Yeah. Right. You can have a few more minutes. Yeah. Any questions you can ask? There's a question regarding the recommendation algorithm. So Python scikit-learn framework providing a couple of recommendation algorithm. Also Microsoft have this recommendation algorithm. I have put down the name here, so you can take a look at it. This one. This one, large scale online Bayesian recommendation. This is developed by Microsoft Research UK. This Matchbox algorithm. So you can search this name and you can get the research paper of that, and you can even find this in the Microsoft Azure ML environment, right? Matchbox, you can easily find this one is from the Microsoft Research. They have created this one, which is called the Matchbox Recommender, right? So let me share you some more information related to this, right? So this is using this recommendation system. So you can see an example of like how this is they are creating a restaurant recommendation system to recommend based on the customer data and rating, where we can create a restaurant recommendation, right? So where we can recommend restaurant for customers. This restaurant is good. This restaurant is good for you at the moment, like that. So let me share this as well. You can take a look at it for further reading based on the question asked in the chat. Okay. So let's move into the last part of the session. Let's meet up. Okay, so similar to that, we have the Oracle AI as well. So the Oracle AI provide, again, Oracle is, is they started with the database, so they are really good with database, and they have banks and all the big telco companies as their clients. But when it comes to AI, they have some sort of services that they are providing. They keep on improving these services because every cloud player as backed by the main technology company, and they want to also like be the leader in this space. So that's why every company are spending a lot of money to develop these tools and technologies for their clients. And these are some of the tools that we can use. PyCharm is one tool where we can use as a desktop editor for development of machine learning project. So PyCharm is, I would recommend this software where you can use in a project environment. You can collect multiple projects and like you can create in a project environment. Then VS Code is from Microsoft and it's fully open source. VS Code we can use for a lot of different developments, not only for data science, but Angular, front-end development, back-end development, a lot of development. We can use the Visual Studio, VS Code. That is also a recommended tool. Then we have the Anaconda environment, as I mentioned. That is also a really good tool that we can use. So I already shared the link to download the tool. That is, so if you are in this industry or if you're looking to get into this industry, that is a must to learn this tool, Anaconda environment. And these are some of the algorithms you can see that I mentioned that is there, but there are hundreds of algorithms out there, right? So you can see the anomaly detection algorithm, classification algorithm, clustering, regression algorithm. So you can see there are many options to choose. So choosing the right algorithm is the job for the data scientist. So it's come with the experience and the practice. It comes with that, and based on the scenario, data set, use case, everything put into place. Because what we are doing here is we call experiment. So experiment, we cannot create a successful result at the first run. So we need to do in a multiple iterations to make it a successful experiment. So then only you get that. So the main challenge for the data scientist is to get the accuracy rate. So getting the highest accuracy is the main challenge for the data scientists. But for developers, the main challenge is to complete the code or the making the specific requirement or bug-free code. But here the main challenge is getting the accuracy. I wouldn't say like getting 90%, but at least some decent level that can be acceptable, not 100%, that's another issue, but until some acceptable level. So getting that would take a couple of days, maybe if it is a bigger project, couple of months, like that. So that is the main challenge for data scientists, to getting that accuracy with the given data set and the given condition. Okay. So any questions you can ask, so we can open up this part 2 question and answer. So if you have any questions, you can ask. I hope this particular session was really useful for you. We are looking to have more kind of meetups in coming months. So at least we are planning once a month like this into different topics, right? And also you can recommend us what kind of topics you are interested. You can write to us, so we can look into that as well. Next month we are planning around reinforcement learning and use cases from a startup company to provide some real use cases. So that is at the moment we are discussing and planning for early next month. So in the meantime, do engage and keep in touch. Any questions? We have a few more minutes. You can ask. And also you can look for like certification programs, things like that. So Microsoft providing official certifications for this one. Then those are industry recommended kind of certification programs. It's really useful. They provide, like Microsoft is a technology company, so they are providing those certification. So that will be really useful for you as well. So any questions you can ask from the chat, or you can unmute your mic and you can ask. And thank you for the feedbacks in the chat as well. And we are planning to have this kind of a meetup every month. Maybe toward the end of the year, we'll try to have a physical meetup as well. due to the restrictions. So we'll every month we are trying to bring really interesting topics in AI space. This group is purely targeted in AI space, so all the topics are within that scope. And every month we are planning to bring a really interesting topic to you to look at in a different perspective in these technologies, different kind of opportunities, different kind of information and the learning opportunities, right? We have another 2-3 minutes left. Any questions you like to ask, so you can take down our email address and you can write that. You can send us a mail later as well. Okay, there's a question to put the email address in the chat. Let me put that. I need to skip the. Any other questions you are having? Let me quickly put this. Okay. Yeah, the programming, asking about the evolutionary programming. So that is different, like a programming technique, right? It's not for the algorithm paradigm, right? So it's using for the power system, scheduling and routing, things like that. So yeah, we can use for some kind of like a time series based kind of algorithms for that, for state machines, things like that. I think that will be a starting point you to look at this area. Yeah. So we are planning to do more in-depth sessions, just introduction, start of the year. So then we are planning to have more in-depth sessions and different topics. So around 1 hour, we cannot go more in like a detail, like it's more practical. But during the hour, we try to fill a lot of different topics. For example, as example, next session we are planning reinforcement learning. Then we are planning natural language processing. So likewise, different topics within these areas, and bringing some startups and other speakers also along the way to make it more interesting in this space. Okay, then everyone, thank you for joining the meetup, and we have over 200 members subscribe, and those who are not able to join the today's session, we will share the recording also in the coming days, and hope to see you again in the next meetup as well. Thank you all for joining the meetup. Have a very good evening and a great weekend.
Hello.
Yeah.
What would be the next topic for next session?
Yeah. Next topic, we are planning a reinforcement learning.
Reinforcement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are planning to bring down another speaker on that as well. Yeah. Thank you all for joining the meetup. So see you again in the next meetup, and have a great weekend.